Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live session. Yep, got this. Going to be doing all these live sessions, property viewings, going to meet clients, everything wearing these branded hats. It's all about personal branding, and it's great to be in that mode where you can promote your company with your own outfits. So here we go. Thank you so much to the printers, to my marketing team for designing this, and let's go. So today we have a wellness and fitness coach who's going to be joining us. Just need to send him the message. One high vibe. Here we go. So it should be good. Let's see. Joey Rosselli is going to be joining us from One High Vibe. Let's take him on and view.
Hey, brother.
Joey, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Good,
Thanks
good.
for having me.
No, not at all. Thank you so much for coming on. You know, it's all about the whole reason I do these live sessions with people all around the world is to share the knowledge, the positivity. I love that Jaws poster, by the way, at the back. It
It's
looks amazing.
it's my roommate. He's a huge fan, a huge cinematography fan.
Oh, okay. So he's into sharks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a little bit.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, like I mentioned, thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you speak to you about wellness, which you specialize in, which you're doing your degree in, and how that sort of fits with the media these days of people looking after themselves and how media is promoting being healthy and fit. This is what we're here to talk about. So thank you so much for joining in. Um, Before we start, Joey, if you can introduce yourself as to who you are and what you do, and then we can take it forward.
For sure. Well, thanks again for having me. That's a good conversation. Good to bring awareness to this stuff.
Absolutely.
The the number one thing about media is that oftentimes I'm not gonna say it's misconceived, but especially in the wellness world, a lot of things, a lot of things are they're sugar coated, right? It's all about diving deep and going into what wellness is all about, right? The mindset, the body, etc. So what I do, I'm not a specialist or expert in any of those fields. I'm still a student in university studying media, radio, television, and arts, etc. I work for a radio station not far from my school. It's probably Canada's largest talk and news radio station. So I'm
That
developing my skill set.
it's News Talk 1010, right? Is that the one?
Correct, yes. So it's an AM station in Toronto, Canada. And so what I'm doing is I'm developing my skill set and producing. I'm a producer there in terms
Okay.
of getting guests, in terms of setting up and lining up the show, in terms of researching stories as to what stories are being told in today's news, and a lot of lifestyle stuff as well. So what I'm doing for One High Vibe is a little different. It's a little more, it's definitely not news, but there's still that fine line of that connection of media and wellness, right? So when I'm learning at work, learning at school, and bringing it into One High Vibe. So that there's
Okay.
a way to portray the message of what wellness is all about and how we should treat it and take care of ourselves.
Um, Before we start, did you always think of doing this, of talking about wellness or getting people fit and the whole mental well-being? Did you always think that you wanted to do this, or you had some other aspirations in life, like becoming a doctor, for example, a lawyer? When kids grow up, they always think about, like, for example, me. I never thought I would sell properties. I thought I'll become a businessman, but I didn't know what I was doing. So did you have that kind of thing in mind, that, okay, doctor, or lawyer, or accountant, or an architect? Or no, from the start you saw people and you see how they were dealing with stuff, and that's what got you into the wellness side of things, of
Hmm.
dealing with people?
No, I definitely had different goals and different dreams as a kid. I always dreamt of being a sports host, a sports broadcaster. And so I think that goal and that dream kind of led me to where I am now, or what I'm trying to build and develop. Because if I didn't have that dream and that aspiration of becoming a sports broadcaster, that would have never brought me to the school that I'm at right now.
Sure.
And the school I'm at right now is helping me develop my skill set in media. And with the skill set that I'm developing in media, will help me push and put One High Vibe, or put the whole wellness chat on a pedestal, right?
Got you.
Um, and so then I think just along my own journey, along my own time, um, learning about wellness, learning about your own being, right? Like learning about our energy, learning about our purpose, the reason why we're here, what we do, emotions, thoughts, the brain, the mindset is a huge thing, right? It's all about perception. It's all about what you think about and what you're putting your energy and your mind to and your attention to,
Absolutely.
right?
And this is a good topic to talk about, because these days, as you know, people are going through negativity in their life. People have lost their jobs, being made redundant, furloughed, businesses going bust, high streets getting shut down, um, people not being able to work from the office where they used to meet their colleagues and friends, and the boss, for example, talking to them face to face rather than setting up on a Zoom call, and managing their office life from home. So there are lots of things that the human population around the world is going through right now, and that they've been going through this since January. When they started hearing about this whole coronavirus thing, and then all of a sudden it's in Europe, and then it's in the US, and then lockdown, and so how can someone keep themselves well mentally, physically, and stop thinking about these things that are happening outside them rather than inside? How would you bring someone up to scratch and positive, and the mindset to be, no, you got to do what you're doing and forget about what's happening around you? How would you tell them to go around something like that?
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, perception, right? People
Mhm.
right now, perception, fear. I can't go next to this guy. I sneeze, I gotta run away. It's mental perception that has changed completely. So
1000%. It's, I think the number one step is realizing what you're thinking and realizing what you're feeling. That's the number one step. Once you acknowledge that and you're cognizant of how you're feeling and what you're thinking of, that's amazing. Because you're telling yourself, for example, okay, I'm fearful right now. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. That's fine. You're aware of that. Tell yourself, okay, I know I'm scared. I know I don't know what the next step is. But the but is the step two. The step two is, after every single storm, right? When there's a passing cloud of rain, when it's winter, for example, a bad snowstorm, after every storm, the sun always comes shining bright right through all the clouds,
absolutely,
all the time. It could be a minute later, it could be an hour later, it could be a day later. The sun will always come shining through every single time.
absolutely,
So that's the idea you have to have, right? Is that, okay, right now I might be in a slump, I might be in the gutters, but I know the light is going to come shining bright. And the more you think about the light shining bright and the light coming at the end of the tunnel, the faster you're going to get there.
of
And it's
course.
and it's and it's so hard and it's so different for so many different people, because they're in such unique situations with their business, their family, their schoolwork, their actual work, etc. But at the end of the day, yes, it is hard, but it's so good, it's so important to acknowledge the hardship. And then it's even more important to look and just, visualize and think about that light that's coming, that breakthrough,
Of
right?
course.
Because the more you think about it, the more you put your energy to it, again, the faster it's going to come.
But you know let's take me for example right now. I don't want to go back to 12 years of career in this property world that I've been in, But just taking 2 months, the past 2 months as an example for this, when the lockdown happened, I sort of lost quite a few property deals because of this, because people didn't know what was happening. They were going out, this whole lockdown thing was going on. And all of a sudden, I get a call from my client saying, Murtaza, we're not going to buy anything. We're not going to rent anything until this whole thing clears up. Now, there could be tons of property agents in the same shoes that I am. Like you mentioned, always look for the light or the sunlight that's going to come out of these clouds, But don't you think it's hard for people to look for something? Like even when I go for a property viewing, right? And the property is totally messed up. You take the client in and you're like, wow, but you tell the client, look, this whole property is going to be revamped, refurbished, it's going to be spick and span, clean throughout before you move in. Just imagine how it's going to look. That imagination does not come. The next call that I get from them after the viewing is like, Murtaza, we're not taking that. How can someone imagine or predict that, okay, this light is going to come by in the next few hours, few days, few months, and everything's going to go back to normal? How would you advise such people to be so strong and look out for that?
The number one thing is, I think, faith. You gotta have faith, because if you're not going to have faith, you're going to be choosing fear, right? You're either choosing fear or you're choosing faith. There's no in between. It's not a little bit of fear and a little bit of faith. No, it's one extreme or the other. It's one spectrum. You can choose one end or the other, faith or fear. So it's yes, of course, it's hard, especially in your case where there's money on the line, you got clients on the line, etc.
You got bills to pay, you got rent to pay, you got mortgages to pay, you got
tons.
But and these things don't stop. Okay, for example, mortgages have a holiday period right now, but rent hasn't stopped, bills haven't stopped, insurance hasn't stopped. How can someone see that light that, okay, in the next few months it's all going to be over, and we're going to be back? And even if someone's going to be back, it's not going to just change overnight. It's going to take another 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, for example, to forget all of that and to start getting to earn money.
So the way you should look at it is, yes, these next few weeks, few days, few months, whatever it is, this next little bit of time is going to be hard. But, think about it. Like, wasn't it hard to learn how to ride a bike? Wasn't it hard to do school? Wasn't it hard to learn X, Y, and Z? Things aren't easy in life. Most things can be easy, but a lot of things are hard. That's the whole point of growing. If you're not going to go through little ups and downs, little hardships, if you're not going to go through them, how are you supposed to grow as a person? How are you supposed to evolve and become a stronger person? The whole point of going through hardships is because the upper power that you believe in, whether it's the source, the universe, God, Allah, etc., whatever you believe in, they're giving you tools and they're giving you scenarios in your life that you can overcome in order to become the stronger and better version of yourself, right? And I know, again, for some people, it's so hard to look at that light or to look at it in that perspective because they hit rock bottom so fast and so hard, right? It's like the flashing light came out of nowhere.
Yep.
And oftentimes people have to go through those really, really, really tough hardships in order to kind of, I wouldn't say wake up, but to maybe realize that, okay, maybe my life should modify a little. Maybe I should slow down a little. Maybe life is not all about money. Let me go inside. Let me work on myself for a little. I have 6 hours on my schedule for free every day. Let me start a training routine. Let me start working out. Let me start having, family board game night with my kids and wife, for example. That's the way I look. Again, it's all about perception, right? So your perspective and perception of a situation may be different than mine, but it's so important to kind of shift that mindset, because if you don't shift that mindset, if you're going to stay stuck in that state of fear, in that state of panic and anxiety and worry, it's not only going to take you twice as long to get out of that state, but it's just going to be such a dreadful and stressing state, right? It's going to take so much energy. It's going to take life out of you.
You're absolutely right. Like when this whole thing happened with me, a week or 10 days or maybe 2 weeks even, I was, going back and forth to the park with the kids, spending time with the kids. But spending time with the kids does not earn money. You know, yes, you want to spend. I've possibly spent majority of my family time in these 2 months than I'm possibly ever going to spend with them. But
I understand.
spending all that time does not earn money. And this is one question that I want to ask you as well, because you're in
Mhm.
that mental well-being. Does money buy does money buy happiness?
Depends what your happiness is. What's your
Okay.
definition of happiness?
To see a smile on your kid's face, like today he wanted a aerobics cube, right? He's played
Hmm.
with so many of them over the years, but he came on. My son came to me and he's like, "Dad, can you get me this aerobics cube?" And the first time I said, "Okay, I'll order it." 10 minutes later, he came back. "Dad, did you order it?" You know, and okay, open up the link and we'll look into it. Okay, I'm coming. We'll do it in 15 minutes. Came back in 15 minutes. "Dad, the link's open on the computer. Let's go and order it." And I knew now I don't have any way out of it. So I'm just taking you through the process right now. So we ordered it, and that smile was from here to here when I just pressed okay, purchase. So doesn't it actually buy happiness? Even if it was what, £5, $10, for example, but that $10 did put a smile on my kid's face, which bought him happiness,
Yes,
and
but
in turn, it bought me happiness because my son's
yeah,
happy.
right.
So
Now,
yeah,
now the
go
question
ahead.
I have for that is, how long will that happiness last?
5 minutes.
Yeah,
He got
that
it
is it.
yesterday. He got it yesterday, playing with it, doing his stuff on the side, done, dusted, it's finished. So yes, you're right in coming to that point that okay, that aerobics cube just brought him happiness for like 5 minutes, but the time that I spend with him, take him to the park, go cycling with him, or just walk with him, that's happiness too, right? Because
Hmm.
those are moments, even if you put them on the side for God knows how long, you will always come back to that moment that, oh, on this particular day, you learned how to ride your bike.
Right.
Or on this particular day, you fell down from your bike and you scratched yourself and you started crying. Those moments will always come. And yes, you can find happiness in moments too. Those moments will always stay, right? Depending on
Exactly.
how far back you can go.
Right.
Um,
And
but
go
yeah,
ahead. I was gonna
no,
say,
go ahead.
so whenever there's a memory, the reason why we remember things, or we title things as moments, is because those moments were associated with an emotion. When something happens, it could be the tiniest thing. As you said, even going for a walk from your house to the next door neighbor. Just that walk, if something happened and there's emotion that's tied to it, that's associated with it, you'll remember that moment forever.
Of course.
That's how the brain works. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but I've done a little bit of research in psychology, and that's how it works. It's the heart and brain connection. When there's a connection, they actually did this research at the Heart Math Institute, and when there's a connection of an emotion with the mind, that memory is stuck in your brain forever.
Of course.
So whether it's as a could be any emotion, could be sad, happy, angry, impatient, frustrated, etc. But whenever there's an emotion associated, it's going to stick forever. So whenever you're creating beautiful moments with your son, with your kids, or with your wife, when especially the happy moments, you can look back at them 20 years later and still be happy about it because there's that happiness emotion that was tied
Or
with it.
even if I fought with my wife like 2 days ago, for example, right? You would come back to it that we fought over something so stupid. So the reason I asked you that question, does money actually buy happiness, is because I want people to know that it's not the money. It's okay, like 5 minutes of aerobics cube playing, that's it, we're done. But those moments, like you mentioned, will stay for life and you can go back to them. And that's what sort of puts you into that right mental well-being, right? That you can come back to those moments whenever you're feeling down, whenever you're feeling upset, fear, for example, you can come back to those moments and cherish them,
Mm-hmm. All the time. All
right?
the time. And isn't that a beautiful thing?
Of course it is.
And it's,
Um,
last thing I'll say is
yeah,
that because when you're buying something, whether you buy, a Rubik's Cube for your son, whether you buy a car, whether you buy a house, it could be the outer world object, that gift can be this small, can be the size as, of a blue whale, for example. That happiness will only last for a few minutes, for a few days, for a few months. It's like getting a new job, right? Everyone's happy at the beginning, but you're going to have that same receptive response in your brain of receiving a new gift, right? Of the outer world tangible object. And so that fulfills you for a little bit of time. But if you're not correcting and fixing yourself on the inside, then, happiness will only be a temporary experience for you.
of course. Now, you mentioned about the media sugarcoating a lot of stuff and serving it on a plate of a human, all around the world. It'd be on TV, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. What's your take on it?
It's my take is
Are we living a false life?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it's a false life. I don't think, I can't even really answer that question, to be honest, but I personally don't think we are. I think it's more about like, they don't want us to know too much. They want us to know what they can control, right? There's definitely, I can't guarantee it, but I assume that there's information behind the news outlets that are not being told to us. And this is not specifically tied in with the coronavirus, the COVID-19. This is just in general, from entertainment news to lifestyle news to sports news to
politics, whatever.
All the news. Yeah, there's so many things that it's such inside information that they can't release to the public, and they might twist some stories around, or they might give some false information that will maybe elevate the story's essence for the people. But I just think that the way they portray themselves and the way they deliver the messages are sometimes deceiving for a lot of people as well. And it confuses them, it scares them, puts them in a state of fear. Most of the news we receive from news stations is negative news, right? It's all negativity. 9 out of 10 times.
I mean, so many people have come up on my live session and they've just mentioned that you want something positive, switch off the news, switch off the TV. Watch Netflix, for example. Even Netflix now, if you see Netflix, they're coming up with so much stuff to cause that negativity. Conspiracy, it'd be anything, it's just because they know that people don't have, like over here, we've got Sky and Virgin and all these satellite providers, and people have now turned to Netflix because it's cheaper. You can stream anytime from your phone, whatever. I mean, other satellites you can do as well. But even them, they're going out. As soon as the lockdown started, they released a series called Pandemic. And how can people save themselves from all of this? What sort of exercises do you have in place to avoid yourself from watching this negative media that's always on?
Honestly, what I do is, I'll tell you the truth, is that I don't necessarily.
And by the way, I don't have COVID. I've just got hay fever.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Through a screen, I won't catch it. Look, personally, the number one thing I do is I don't dive into it so in depth, right? I'm aware of what's going on. I'm aware of the news. I work in a news station, for heaven's sakes. I have to know what's going on. I'm aware of it, but I'm not diving in so deep that I'm putting myself in a state of fear, right? That's what the news wants. They put you in a state of fear so that you want to know more. What's next? What's the next part in this story? What happened to that guy last week?
Yeah.
Right? For them, these stories are incentives for the people, for the consumer, for the viewer. So for myself is that number one, I'm not diving into it so heavily. I'm not waking up and reading the new numbers. I'm not waking up and reading the new stories. At work I am, but at work I have my worker's hat on, right?
You got to
I'm
do it.
looking at it. Not even that I have to do it. It's because the work that I'm doing for the radio station, for me, that's developing a skill set. I'm building a skill set. I'm not putting my entire heart and soul into the stories that are being delivered by the news stations.
Of course.
I'm just being aware of what's going on and applying it to the skill set I'm being taught and learning and doing.
Yep.
Right. So it's number one, don't dive deep into the news. Don't I'm not gonna say don't cry over it, but it's, again, once you associate such a strong emotion with it,
yeah,
you'll be tied for a long time. It's hard to kind of untie that knot. And then number two is do something that's productive for yourself. Again, it could be working out, it could be reading a book, doing yoga, watching a movie, entertaining yourself. If you're working on yourself, you're gonna find yourself, on the fast lane. You're gonna find yourself just moving forward and moving fast and advancing in life to the next stage, to the next level, without even being stopped by the news or being stopped by X, Y, and Z, because you're on such a good path, a fast, strong path.
Of course.
So I would say prioritize yourself.
So these are the few exercises that one should do in terms of when it comes to not watching the news. Quickly, I wanted to ask you, how social media, for example, these days is huge. It's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. People are on there. And celebrities are on there. Influencers are on there. Again, coming back to that mental well-being of money bringing happiness. A lot of people watch this. They follow influencers, they follow billionaires, celebrities, motivational speakers, and all that kind of stuff. And when they see their posts or live stories or things like that, and they feel, why don't I have that? And straight away, you're kicking in the negative effect. Like, how can people put a bar towards it? Like, look, that person has it in their life for a certain reason. The grass is always greener on the other side. But how can they look at their life and say that, okay, I want to achieve that, but not looking at other people's stuff. I'll achieve it myself. What sort of thought process they should have to when they look at social media and all these things, for example?
So, number one question you have to ask yourself is, as you just said, I want to be like that person. I want to have that person's lifestyle. Number one question is, do you believe you can achieve that lifestyle? If the answer is no, if you have doubts, if you're so doubtful that you can't achieve that lifestyle, forget it.
Unfollow.
Yeah. Bye, you're gone. That's number one. Number two is, I'm not saying that's unrealistic, but a lot of things on social media are glorified, right? A lot of things are highlighted. A lot of things are, you only see the best of the best. You see the cream of the crop. You don't see behind the scenes. You don't see behind the curtains. So think of that we're all human, that we all have issues. We all go through certain phases in our life, ups and downs, and they won't show that. Some of them do, which is great. But at the same time, it's, these people went through so many phases and steps in order to get there. It's what you're seeing now on Instagram. You're seeing, again, the cream of the crop. You didn't see the steps they took in order to get there. You have to understand that it takes steps to get to a certain position, to get to that spotlight, if you want to put it in that way. So if you're not, these people, they have such a huge profile, but they have such a huge support system, that foundation. They built that foundation. So if you say, okay, I truly believe I can achieve that lifestyle, I can achieve that person's way of being, way of living, okay, that means you're ready to take on all the steps in order to get there. You're ready to go through the grind. You're ready to build your foundation step by step, time over time.
And then as soon as they see the first stone, they're like, no, that's not me.
Yeah,
no, that's not me.
It happens.
It happens a lot. I mean, maybe 1 out of 1,000 goes on that path and says that, okay, I want to be, I don't know, like, I don't even know whose name to take these days.
I don't know. Let's say Justin Bieber, for example.
Justin Bieber, for example, you know. But the first thing they remember about Justin Bieber, for example, is Usher signed him on, and that's why he's so big, you know. But
But
do you know what he did before getting signed on with Usher?
exactly, exactly. Like for example, Justin Bieber's case, Usher signed him, Usher spotted him. But at the same time, Justin Bieber kept posting and reposting videos and videos and videos. You know, he didn't do one video and it blew up.
Of course,
He did hundreds of videos. He
of
posted
course,
hundreds, right? He posted every single day. He was consistent and persistent about it. And when it was his time to get picked, you can say, it was his time. It happens in divine timing, right? For him,
absolutely.
it might have been 3 months. For others, it might be 3 years,
So you
right? Everyone,
believe that every single person's that one moment in life comes.
I think there are several moments, multiple moments. Depend again. It's all about perception, right? Depends how you perceive a moment. Like, what's a moment to you? What's a moment to her? What's a moment to me?
Of course.
Etc. So if a moment for you is getting picked by a well-known celebrity like Usher and throwing it into the spotlight, then yeah, that moment can definitely happen once or twice or 3 times. It depends what your moment is or what you want it to be.
We're all waiting for that moment.
You gotta believe it, man. If you
Um,
believe it, you gotta do it.
Absolutely. Joey, before we wrap up, you know, I do this with everyone, and especially you. This will be a good thing to come from you. You're a university going graduate. I wish you all the best in life. You know, whatever you're doing, your news channel, your mental well-being through media and everything. You know, I wish you all the best. But before you go, a piece of advice to people who are in that negative moment, lost their jobs, don't know what to do, lost their businesses because of this lockdown, again, don't know what to do. What's that one positive advice that you would like to give them so that they can sort of, you know, recharge themselves and
Yeah.
go out there and get it?
So the number one thing I'll say is to definitely go inside. To just work on yourself. Work on yourself both inside, and outside. Work on yourself. You have time to work on yourself now. I know it's hard, but by working on yourself, you're going to be better. You're going to get better. And when things turn around, when things come back to normal, quote unquote, you'll be more than ready.
Back to normal or back to the new normal?
Back to the new normal, we'll say that. I like that.
But Joey, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all this amazing pieces of advice. The whole live session was advice. I don't even know why I asked you about the advice at the end, but you know, it was advice, knowledge on how to keep yourself fit here and here. Like you mentioned, look at the inside, look what you're doing. But thank you so much for joining me. It's an honor to have you on, and whatever you're doing later on in the day and the years to come, all the best.
Thanks, brother. To you too, man. Best of luck.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.
So that was Joey Rosselli from onehighvibe, who is currently studying at the university in mental well-being. Wellness is health. It be mental or it be physical. You know, like they say, health is wealth. So look after yourself. Try and, what Joey mentioned, look onto your inside and make your decisions accordingly, and bring yourself up in life, because it's all about positiveness. So think about positivity all the time. I know negative issues can come up, but you know, it's life. So look after yourself, whatever you're doing. All the best, and I shall see you on the live session tomorrow at, I think it's at 6 p.m. UK time, but I'll be posting that on my live session later. So thank you so much to Joey and all the viewers that tuned in. Have a great day wherever you are. Bye-bye.